very quickly, we're just going to, I'm just asking the officers to please introduce themselves. Mr. Rosenberger, you can start first.
Benny Rosenberger, member at large.
Linda Watson Ward, Executive Secretary.
Fred Baptiste, Chair.
Ethan Norville, the first vice chair.
Felice Robinson, the second vice chair.
Manila Dute, treasurer.
That's all? Okay. So hearing those names, we have a quorum. So we are now going to, well, I guess let me just complete the welcome. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's cold. It is cold. I know we're not all feeling 100%. I thank everyone for coming out. I thank the officers for coming in and doing your duty again to the board. We're going to try and go through this agenda very expeditiously this evening. I don't want to belabor the point too much. So I would just ask for all the chairs, as we're giving reports, please just try and keep those down to about 2 minutes. If there are any action items or urgent items that are coming up, just to let us know. At the appropriate time, I'll ask if there's any action items, anything that we need to vote on at the board meeting, just to let us know at that time as well. And we can make sure we can include that as we go forward. All right, okay. So at this time, we are going to go on to item number 2, the committee chair check-in. I always pick people. Anybody want to volunteer for a committee chair?
Well, I guess just to get it out of the way, see Billy Martin, co-chair,
Vice chair, or just representative chair?
Yeah,
Representative.
Just
for youth, education and library.
Okay. All right. Well done. Thank you very much. So I'll tell you, if you would, if you just give us the report you have for.
Oh, yes, so 2 things, I'm not sure if it was updated yet, but, we've been waiting on just if it was approved or not, the career day event for March 15th. Yeah, okay, good. So then from that, the next one is our event for April 5th it's at Clara Barton. It's the Educators Town Hall. There's a flyer for it. If you want to pass it around. And the budget is not even $1,000, not even. That might mean to go to refreshments and all, but the purpose is to have a conversation about what's going on in the education system and what we can do to push it forward, for the kids to perform higher. Like I said, it's going to be at Clara Barton. It's open to the public, it's free, and we're inviting panelists of all areas of education to join the panel. And we have reached out to the district office as well.
You said the date for that Educators Town Hall is when again?
April 5th, it's a Saturday.
All right. Do you know if there was a budget form, an event form filled out for it?
Yes,
You submitted already?
yes,
Yeah,
the online one.
Dante, you have one? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Nice short. Was there any other action? Anything else?
No, that was.
Nice short report. Thank you for staying in the format. All right. At this time, any questions from the exec? Mr. Rosenberger? Ms. Watson Lord? Just check. Nope. Ethan? Nope. Ms. Robinson? Myna, you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we have those, I think those are 2 votes we have to have. So it will be for this Educators Town Hall. I don't think we still haven't had a chance to vote on the career day. I think we're proceeding with it at this point. We just need to officially vote on it as a matter. So we'll make sure that that's an administrative item, but otherwise, continue to proceed with the work on that.
Okay,
My apologies again that we haven't voted on it by this point, but we're gonna make sure that gets taken care of.
okay, and that's March 15th.
Correct.
Career day.
Yeah, no, I mean, that conversation we've had already, so I
Yeah.
think the committee is clear to already keep working on that. So we'll just get the formal board approval, and that information's already been submitted, so
Yep.
that's already been given to the committee, the exec and the board as well. Okay, all right, thank you very much for that. All right, environmental protection, we got a report.
The meeting was canceled due to the weather.
Okay,
Yeah, so we don't have any, we are still working on the, paid, hands, project, and hopefully the March meeting, we'll have, someone come and talk to us about that, as well as some other things that we're working on. Mr. River keeps pulling up all these audit reports that we, I guess, need to look at, and so we'll have more information on that. And that's all I have.
no problem. We like him when Mr. Herbert's busy, keeps him out of trouble.
Oh, it keeps him out of trouble.
We hope.
We need to have him work when he's in town, because he's out of town more often than
That likes the fish.
You want this more?
My fishing trip all lined up.
oh my God, you see? You see?
Thank you very much for the report. Any questions for the Environmental Protection Chair from the exec? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for the report.
Oh, Mr. Herbert, did you have anything to add? I mean,
Well, with regards to this audit here, we're just gonna review, a management audit regarding Department of Environmental Protection and the repair, maintenance, or record keeping of fire hydrants. This is an audit that was done back in June of 2020, and we're going to see about maybe a follow-up audit, if they can do one, in order to determine if the DEP implemented all the suggestions that were highlighted in here. And I have to say, it was not the best audit that I've read.
well,
That's definitely important to my neighborhood, because I know the fire hydrants ran dry on
most of them,
Rogers
yeah.
a few years ago, and somebody died in a house fire.
Correct.
Or they constantly tripping.
So just a quick note, I mean, there's over 100,000 units that need to be repaired. Well, that's just back in 2020, and there was some record keeping where they were not keeping track of hydrants that were inoperable. And some record keeping that needed to be updated, so that's why I'm tackling this right now.
Given what happened in California,
Given what,
that's
I was about to say,
scary
given
thing.
what happened in
Yeah.
California,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so,
It'll be interesting at the next meeting just to review it.
all right, no, thank you very much.
That was great. Wow.
Land use, do we have a report?
Okay, so, we didn't have any voting items. We did have a special guest from Historic Districts Council, to talk about, the landmarking process and how landmarks affects land use compared with zoning. He also mentioned some preservation tax credits for both homeowners and apartment building owners. Apparently the historic preservation tax credit is being used quite extensively to restore NYCHA buildings around the city. And we also talked about some of the ongoing work we've been doing, to understand the amount of as-of-right development that could happen in the district. And I think we concluded, as we had during this, research that we did for City of Yes, that it's a very large number. The number we had come up with was 25,000, and it turned out that the number the city came up with in their environmental assessment for the City of Yes was 36,000. So either which way, it's an extremely large number compared with our current number of units, which is 46,000. I think it's just hard for people to imagine how enormous a 50% or more increase in units would be, especially when we're already one of the densest districts in Brooklyn. And as we were looking at some different examples of how this kind of works around the district, and one of the things that came up was a rezoning that CB9 had done many years ago. People aren't aware that CB9 has actually done rezonings at 529 Empire, the kosher supermarket. This happened right around the time I first started going to the board, so I don't have like a really complete knowledge of everything that led up to it. I just remember people saying they wanted affordable housing, but this is before MIH and yada yada, and I don't think they ever got any affordable housing designation. But in any case, since then, there's been no development, which is a little odd. And it's also a little odd that in addition to the supermarket, which is a large commercial lot, it included 6 houses. So anyone kind of knows what was behind that rezoning and what's going on there, I think that would be helpful, because maybe this is what the city is on about, that why aren't things happening, why aren't things getting done? I mean, I think it's a fair question, there may be good reasons, but should probably try to understand what's going on. And that's it. Oh, and, so tomorrow, there is a city planning commission hearing, public hearing for 7399 Empire Boulevard.
Tomorrow, right?
Online?
Um,
is it next one?
It's both online and in person.
is it too late to register
Gotta be on
virtually or?
No, you can register
I can-
virtually
Where?
if you want.
Yeah, so to reiterate the chair's point, so tomorrow is the CPC hearing, so we've already had, yeah. So the City Planning Commission is having their hearing tomorrow for the Empire Boulevard development. So we already had our hearing, we voted no. Just last week, the borough president released his determination, so he voted yes to approve it with conditions. I think one of the conditions he had said was, he was looking for some different massings to kind of mitigate some of the,
Shadows.
the shadow effects that were there. But otherwise, I think he supported the project and, because I think he said it aligns with his comprehensive plan. So that's what's happening now. So tomorrow's gonna be the CPC hearing that happens. I do intend to try and go and testify on behalf of the board as well. So I'll either do it virtually or in person, one of those, but I'm gonna try and do that tomorrow. And I would encourage, if there's anybody else as well, please feel free to go, to let the community's voice be heard in terms of how, about thoughts about the project as well. All right, no, but thank you for that reminder. So that concludes your report?
Yes.
All right, members of the exec, any questions for the land use chair?
No, but could I redirect?
Different question for
For this person? Pertaining to, Mr. Berger, with the fire.
Oh, one second, hold on, so let's just finish with this one, I'll ask a question. So is anybody, any questions for land use?
No.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and there's no action, items, correct?
No,
Sorry.
Quick question.
Oh, sure.
You said that the borough president voted yes. Did he vote, or any of the conditions that he voted, that he stipulated part of what we said no to?
No, I mean, the shadows
No,
are.
the
one
shadows
thing.
are
But I
the
didn't
shadows
hear-
on the sensitive
We
playground.
didn't hear about affordability though, I didn't see it as
Right,
determination,
I understand.
and we did ask for that,
We did,
so
so we were specific about
the issue I think we wanted more of, we didn't hear about.
that. Yeah, I mean, we were pretty intentional about the stuff we put in there in terms of, listen,
Yeah.
yeah, we're concerned about shadows, we're concerned about, schools, we're concerned about, affordability, what is real affordability in there? We're concerned about the fact that it's already a commercial zone, why are we going so much bigger?
Right.
And what are they adding in there, and also even just the past history of the zoning in the district. All along that stretch now, we have, rezonings along that stretch. So
And the
it's like-
density is real. So
The
that's
density
really-
is real and the affordable housing hasn't come. So,
Hmm.
so that, those are some of the things that I definitely intend to highlight as we speak with them.
Parking infrastructure.
Parking, infrastructure, all those things, yeah.
Have you any?
I'm sorry?
The building have any?
The building's gonna have parking, and here's the thing, I mean, it's good that they included that, and I think we even noted that in our resolution, that we were okay with that, that sounds good. Because we think that every kind of development like that should include parking, to make sure that you can at least handle whatever you bring into the
There's
district.
public parking too, so.
And the public parking, yeah, and the public parking as well. But it all speaks to the community benefits. If we're going against the zoning, if we're doing a variance, what is coming back? And is it sufficient enough to justify the variance? So if we're gonna give you 6 extra floors and I get 2 extra apartments, is that really something? Then you might as well just keep the current zoning and just go on about your business. But absolutely, that's from the conversations that we've had over a number of years, and this is not something we just came up with. I wanna say the board has been consistent in terms of the way we look at these things. We're looking at what's coming back, we're looking at the impacts on the community and the residents. They love to say that we're a transit-rich corridor, so that just means you put more people in, slam more people on the 405 train that barely run. So,
And the BU.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so all of it, so it's like, they like to say we're transit-rich, and that's been the focus, and I guess that's the developer's dream, where it's like, yeah, it's like, they can charge extra, there's a premium to charge for that.
Oh yeah, it's true, because if you look at that side, there's a huge chunk of it that is not transit rich at all.
Right.
They have the J and, the JC, the AC on one side.
No.
We actually are, pretty much just more saturated than, many neighborhoods in Brooklyn. So they have a point with that, but doesn't mean they can give us less.
Yeah, I don't disagree that there should be more development around transit, but there already is, that's the issue.
Right. And also, let's go back to the whole city of guest thing. The whole point was, for all the other giveaways we've already given, the idea was everybody's supposed to do a little more. We seem to be doing a little more than a little more.
So,
And that needs to be discussed, it needs to be pointed out, because it's just inconsistent, so you're gonna talk about doing all this extra stuff, but still, we have to bear the brunt for everybody else. And still not have affordable housing that our own residents can get into.
That's a fact.
Well, the thing is, you have to identify what affordability is. I mean, NYCHA was supposed to be affordability. God knows what's gonna happen to these developments with what we are dealing with right now.
Right.
And, so we don't know what to say right
I
now
mean,
about,
we
federal funding or anything.
Right,
you know what, AMI is affordable for people here, it's just that people are refusing to give it to the area. Like, we ask for, 40%, 50%, and sometimes below, but it's come to a point where they're just not giving us the affordable housing.
So why are we giving them any kind of perks of 20 years or 30 years tax-free? Why are we giving them and we cannot receive anything back, and you find more homelessness in our community? Okay, I still fight against the fact that as a city employee, I see more of my members or more of my sisters and brothers in shelters. Why is this? Okay, why is this? Working people in shelters and their children, it's devastating. You talk about mental illness, this is where it comes
This is
from.
where it comes from.
All right, but I'm sorry,
I think this is a question for,
we're gonna get you started on this.
one more question for,
I'm sorry, do you have
Can I
something?
please this question for?
Right, so, okay, so listen, so we're concluding with the land use. So remember, everyone, 10 o'clock tomorrow, it's gonna be at,
120 Broad Street,
120 Broad.
Broadway.
Broadway.
120 Broadway, 10 a.m.
Broadway.
I thought I read it wrong.
Try and get there early and sign up, because that list does fill up fast, I'll tell you that. That much I'll tell you, it fills up fast, but also, to the point, there's also a virtual option, you can test a lot virtually as well. All right, thank you very much. Second Vice Chair, I know you said you had a question for Mr. Herbert.
Yes, I would like to redirect my question to Sir Herbert. You had mentioned, like thousands of, fire hydrants that wasn't operating. Is that any, like in our district, like in the proximity of our district?
So this audit is not that detailed, right? It's just a series of numbers. But I can say that there are 110,000 roughly fire hydrants throughout the 5 boroughs, all right? The auditors, they did a sampling of about 400 inoperable fire hydrants to see if they were repaired timely. Some were, a lot were not. And as far as the record keeping, the DEP found, say, 1,000 more inoperable fire hydrants that were not in the system as of yet. Right. And it appears, and they just put it right in here, is that those 1,000 units skew the numbers that goes to the monthly mayor's management report. So those were not in there. All right. Like I said, it's a bad audit. It's a horrible audit. And one of the things that they found out was that a lot of the repairs were done and completed before the work order was put in. So they were skewing, it gives the impression that it was skewing the numbers.
Of course.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask you for the sake of language. When you say about it, you mean the audit was done poorly or the results of the audit were bad?
The results were very
Okay.
bad,
Bad result.
very bad. Now, this was done back in 2020.
2020.
All right, so, 5 years have gone by, and it's time to do another audit, right, to see if they implemented some or of the recommendations that were here. But the biggest thing is the record keeping. That really,
Quick,
showed
if
right
I can
here.
follow up with this. So now, once that audit comes, isn't the agency actually responsible for responding to it?
Correct,
And
the
do you
audit,
copy that response?
they did respond. When you read the audit, the auditors were not happy with the responses, and they came back with a counter response. And it's time for a new audit to come into play to see if they did act on those counter responses and overall responses. But the responses that the DEP gave, they were very bland and vague. So another audit is due. But this audit here, just on the performance of the DEP, it's not good.
check with Lander and see if he has an audit report, that's what they want.
I searched to see if there was an updated one, this is the
Okay.
last one, so it's due.
Do you have a report for youth services or?
No.
We're good? Same? Okay. All right. Ethan, transportation?
Yeah. I'll make it quick. We don't have any voting items, but we did update our voting item that's been on the floor for a few months. We updated the recommendation to remove fentanyl from the district street plan, Kingston and Brooklyn. And we also updated it to end the bike lanes on Brooklyn and Kingston at East New York Avenue and not go any further north. That was, in response to a request from one of the schools. That's it for that. Other than that, we also discussed Lincoln Road a bit, and we're still gonna go do the survey and see what the conditions are like and see how people are dealing with the existing conditions and what issues might be there. But we also think, it's possible that a study might need to be done on any changes there since it's not a long street, but it might have some effects in the area. So of course, that study I think would be best done after a plan's made, so that they have something to study the effects of. But generally, it's been pretty standard meeting.
Good question. So with the updates, can we possibly get a document that breaks down like a very short executive summary in terms of this is what the plan calls for?
Yeah,
Like a one page or half page?
Yeah, we have visuals, we have diagrams, we have all these things from last year, when the plan was initially explored. So I could attach those too.
Okay. Yeah, but even just because, and this speaks a little bit of the dynamics of the board in terms of, with respect to the amount of work that is done, I think sometimes we are not necessarily getting as deep into these documents as possible.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm looking at is in terms of, and I reckon, this is a question I put out to the board, to the executive, to the board, ways that we can digest this easier.
Yeah.
So like I know for a number of committees, like for example, for public safety, one of the things we're looking at is we're revising some of the policies and some of even the way the applications look. But hopefully being able to finally being able to boil it down to a top sheet. So yes, you have the package, you can absolutely look at the package, but the top sheet will have most of the information that's probably gonna be pertinent for most members to make a vote. This is something that's common practice. A lot of times you'll see reports are prepared, but there's an executive summary in the front. And people will look at it, and the page and a half, the half a page or a page, whatever it is. The things that interest them, they'll see it right up front.
Yeah,
And if they really want to, yeah.
We began doing that a few months ago. We
Right.
have one for the current recommendation of the DOT safety plan.
Right.
There's something in the beginning, and it helps. So for this, we haven't written that recommendation over since last April or so. So yeah, I think we intend to do that too for the next time.
And that's the only reason why I ask, because especially if there's some potential changes that come in there,
Yeah.
I just want you to make, if we can highlight that for the board,
Mhm.
to say that despite whatever the conversation is, this is the final product. This change was made, so I know originally we requested this is what's happening,
Yeah.
and, all the other pertinent information for board members to just be able to look at it.
I can actually also highlight it. Like I can.
Highlighted colors, pictures,
You can do that
diagrams, whatever it is. But I think the best thing is in a page. That answers 90% of the questions that people are gonna have.
Yeah.
And then the other 10%, go read the document. But I think that's where we wanna start going as a board, just to make sure that people have that. It speeds the process along, so hopefully they're not 10 questions, they're 3 or 4.
Yep.
That really might need to just be explained, and we can just simply get that in terms of productivity. But thank you for that, and we'll make sure that, so when we get to the agenda, we'll make sure that it's included.
I thought an impact study was one of the things we mentioned we were gonna do. I thought an impact study is preferable first before you can do a survey.
No. You don't even have a plan to study the impact of if you do that first. What's there to study?
Well, for what I saw when I went through to Lincoln Road, I saw that they have demarcations in the street for a bike lane already. So to suggest that we wanna put Lincoln Road as a one-way, I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, the survey is not to see who wants it. The survey is to figure out what the current issues are on the road. Are people struggling with loading? Are they struggling with congestion? Are they struggling with our bikers getting hit. Like, we want to see what the problems are, see where the pain is, see where it hurts, before we, flesh out the full solution. So yeah, there's a bike lane demarcation there. That's just been there for about 10 plus years. But the question is, the street's not that big, and it looks like a mess the majority of the time. You see buses trying to make the right turn on that street. You see trucks loading. You see sometimes bikers flying by in the summer. And it doesn't look generally like a pretty good use of space unless you enjoy congested streets. So that's something that I think, if you can hear from the public and see what are the current issues you see with this street and people answer, it can kind of sort of create a reasoning for some kind of plan in that case in the first place.
Well, since it was in existence for quite some time and no one had a real problem with it, until now we want to put a bike lane and you want to change the direction and you want to make it narrow. I mean, I think that would create a problem, not just for that block there, but for Ocean Parkway in itself. So that's why I thought an impact study would be preferably to be done, opposed to having a survey, which we have the minutes for, that states that the survey is defective, demonstrated with Mr.
Berman?
Yes, sir. Where the survey was done and the people from the outside prefer to have a bike lane opposed to the people that live in the community. I mean, in the minutes it said it was defective, so I don't understand why a survey would be necessary. I mean, if you want to do it, I understand, but I don't see how it will be fair for the community.
I'm not sure which minutes said a survey was
I
effective,
don't
because the survey, I don't think a survey is specifically just to get the opinions of those who live in the area. And our survey did both. It got the opinions of those who lived in the area and those outside. Because again, people who live outside could die in an area because of a street being designed in a way that the people there like, but it's a hazard. I don't think anybody would enjoy getting into a car accident in Fort Hamilton Parkway or somewhere else because they like their streets a different way than you do. Are you going to avoid that whole part of the city?
It's not me. I actually.
Oh, no, it's not you.
I actually went there and I asked them, the owners and the residents, and they don't want it one way, but we have to really tag them because they live right there.
That's what the survey's for.
Okay, and from what I could see, because I live in close proximity, I don't see where the problem lies. I mean, once again, I was raised in a community, so I don't see where the problem lies. I mean, what are we trying to do? What's the motivation of it all?
Well, only because we need to move on, but I think that part of the only thing that a study would do, and it tells us what people are good with and what people are not good with. Because people may very well, to your point, the directions that they are going in right now may be just perfectly fine. And the tweaks may be around the edges. Maybe we can do smaller things that improve that corridor. Or you know what? Sometimes you just have people have not complained about it because they just complain to the neighbors about what's going on. And a survey like that helps us get more idea of what the sentiment is there. But this is all to say that we're not acting or we're not saying one thing is better than another right off the bat. It's a matter of ask the question and see what answers we get back first.
So then we had this gentleman, Mr. Herbert, had brought in some estimates or.
I guess on that note, and I'll touch base on that. What it is that I understand that there's a survey that's going to go around, but the real meat here is a traffic impact study, right? To determine that intersection, right? What relief is going to be given at that intersection based on the traffic, right? Because if you take a look, again, I'm just going to repeat what I said the last time when I was here. If you take a look at the intersection, right, you had, 4 ways to go, north, south, east, and west, right? So you can't go west into the park because that road is shut down. So we only have 3 access points. If you redirect Lincoln Road to go westbound only, right, you'll have further traffic within that intersection with very little relief.
Right.
And then what will happen, you will have cars that will stop in the middle of the intersection. People won't know when to cross, right? And that's what happens when you don't have the relief. And like I said, that roadway is about 6/10 of a mile. Right? And it's 1/10 of a mile, it's 530 feet from the traffic light going down to to the intersection.
Right.
So the things what's needed is an impact study, an impact traffic study to determine, right, if any engineering recommendations are needed for that location. Because I don't see that, or just asking the people what they want, if that's going to do it. You need to combine
Well,
that
well,
with.
well, part of it is, just real quick, part of what I'm saying as well is that I would like us to look expand even more than that, not just about which way traffic flows or doesn't flow, but what else is working or not working on that corridor. Like, for example, they have the loading zones. So we need to
Correct.
consider that there are businesses along there that stretch that
Correct.
have loading zones. I do want to take a look at, I think it is good for us to look at, okay, well, listen, how does the bike lane piece fit in there?
Right.
If it fits at all.
Mhm.
Because perhaps maybe you shouldn't direct the traffic through Lincoln, because it's like, you know, God bless you if you're gonna try and get across Flatbush Avenue and intersection of Washington
Correct.
and everything else. So maybe, or maybe not, that piece shouldn't be there, maybe you should direct the bike lanes to go around or something like that, especially because there's other conversations. All to say, I have no idea, but I think it's good for us to kind of get that out there in terms of what are the concerns of the people who use that strip.
Right.
If you're a biker, if you're a business, if you're a resident who lives there and you're tired of hearing cars honking because they can't get to Ocean Avenue or get to Flatbush.
Correct, the noise,
Just to
correct.
kind of get that sentiment in terms of
A
what it
couple
is.
points to
Because
respond.
that'll help
to
us
that.
that'll help guide us where, where we
Yeah.
want to go.
A couple of points to respond there real quick. I'm not stuck on the idea of the bike lane being on Lincoln. I'm not trying to make that happen. It isn't about that. It's about just using the space better. Because when I see buses fight against trucks in two-way directional cars on a small strip, that's a transit hub. It doesn't look like an efficient use of space. And I'm pretty sure people who are stuck in that traffic also think it's an efficient use of space. Now, there's a reason why one of the ways to typically speed streets up,
Mhm.
and this is true on a physical level, on a biological level,
Mhm.
organisms that have two-way neurons have brains that operate on a slower basis. It tends to be true. Making things one way tends to speed them up. And if you look at the way that the streets are currently configured, if you're on Lincoln going towards Flatbush,
Mhm.
you're probably waiting on folks turning left and right. That slows it down. The other direction, if you're coming down south on Ocean, you're waiting on folks who are turning left to go onto Lincoln.
Mhm.
That which also slows that traffic down because there isn't a left turn bay there. You have to wait essentially for people to stop so you can make that left turn. So those are just two ways that Ocean's already backed up and Lincoln can be backed up going to Flatbush. If Lincoln were one way, yeah, the traffic wouldn't have that quick exit point. Well, not quick, it's pretty slow, but it wouldn't have that exit point towards Flatbush. But the traffic flow towards Parkside would be a lot faster because people aren't waiting to turn. That'd be one way. And the other direction, if you're thinking about Lincoln going towards Flatbush, well, that wouldn't be a thing. But people would be flowing more quickly because they're making left and right turns off Flatbush, perhaps, and going towards Ocean. It would speed up the flow of Ocean most likely, and it would be an easier, quicker exit point towards Ocean from Flatbush. Since you'd have less trucks blocking that street, they'd have a place to be that isn't in the lane, and essentially buses would be able to flow faster because they wouldn't be making such a slow right turn to stop at the BQ bus stop there. So I mean,
Well-
so the BQ train station. So I'm just saying like, there are arguments for both. Whether it'll speed things up or slow it down. And I think an impact study would be a good move there.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying it could go either way because there would be elements that would speed it up.
So then my other suggestion was the bike that's, the bikes that's placed there on Lincoln, right, the city bikes, yes. There on the corner, that could be an area where, the loading dock can be, and we can place those bikes right next to the park, which will be safer instead of in the street. That was my suggestion, or was
Sure.
suggested.
Makes sense, but that I'll note that spot is the furthest spot from any business there.
Why would it be, it's a loading area, which would free up, it's right there on the block. I don't
Or
understand.
even if they were to get rid of the bikes and move parking that way, if there still is parking on that, and make the loading zone
In the
in the
middle,
middle of the block,
right.
then it's something, but the city bikes gotta go.
If I may, I think Fred, what you said was right about the loading zones. Okay, there are no loading zones there. The city's gotten rid of a lot of loading zones, And you have businesses that do take on deliveries, and that impacts it. So, I mean, there are a myriad of things that can be looked at. That's why a traffic impact study is very important, to take all of these into consideration to see what works best for traffic flow and pedestrian, right? So, yes, it's all correct, but the impact study is really needed.
I think the best move there would be to make a couple plan spots, different ideas that we're having, and then pair that with a request for an impact study, so they have a direction of things to actually study.
What I don't, if I may, right, one of the things that I don't understand is, and I've looked at the Vision Zero plan for all the boroughs, the streets and whatnot. I have a concern with the way the priorities of the streets and the projects come about. And the concern that I have is that there's an already established priority of streets, priority corridors. And I'm seeing a number, not just in Brooklyn, but in Queens, and a number of streets that are receiving or potentially proposed to receive substantial traffic enhancements and are not priority corridor streets. So, for instance, this here is I only did for the borough of Brooklyn, right? This is the updated plan that's given to the mayor, right? It's done every couple of years. All right. And there's a list of priority corridors that are in here. This here is the little brother to this, right? Still Vision Zero plan, but this is the little brother. Now, if you take a look at this here, this is regarding priority school areas, okay? The two working in tandem. So if I take a look at this, there are a lot of schools that are in. This is for the Safe Routes, Safe Schools, Safe Kids program. And I see that there are a number, not just in Brooklyn, all over, where this is being ignored. And I just have to use an example. Okay, so here, there are 197 locations that were identified in this here for the safe routes. Out of 197, 52 are in Brooklyn. Out of the 52 that are in Brooklyn, 2 are within CB9. Right? One is PS 221, which is on Empire between Troy and Schenectady. And the other one is where we have our general board meetings. We get kicked out. Okay, so.
Empire, New York?
Yes, Empire, New York. Right. So now, yes, MS 61. All right. So now, these are here, right? And these call for robust enhancements because the KSI and the neighborhood tabulation area combined score, all right? I've been studying this stuff. All right? The combined score shows that these are a priority. Okay? And I mean, I just have to go back to this here, Brooklyn and Kingston. All right? So, Wingate High School, which is this, is not on this priority school list. Right. But the DOT comes up with a presentation to do a connected bike loop around the school campus. But when I look into the data, you have a delisted street, a delisted corridor, which is Brooklyn Avenue, and you have a street, which is Winthrop Street, and they're looking for enhancements. But this is the list where you have kids that are involved in crossing the streets. And this is not the priority, but the priority here is putting protected bike lanes on a street that was delisted from this program. 70% reduction, or 67. So if there's a 67% reduction on this street, why are we doing this, the robust enhancements here, and not put it on these two streets, these two areas here where these kids are? And this here, that's why I don't understand how the DOT miss this. And this is a Vision Zero presentation, because you're talking about spending millions of dollars. And the funding is finite, not infinite, it's finite, and that's my concern. And I see this same thing going on in all the boroughs. And I believe that we need to have the DOT focus on the criteria that they set and not stray, because they're spending money foolishly. And we're not addressing the priority. Right. So I don't see spending millions of dollars on the street that's delisted. I don't see spending millions of dollars on the street that never made the list. And then we have these schools here that are crying for these upgrades. So this has to be done.
So that is, not really.
I mean,
Is that listed under safety?
Yeah, it's also on the Division Zero program. Just that the priorities,
What is it?
Is-
an answer?
Yeah.
the priorities are
I'm
not.
gonna take a stab at it. I'm gonna take a stab, and it's not gonna be a great one. No, I get everything you're saying here, and that means that there are probably conversations we should be having with DOT in terms of how are they coming to these determinations, and what is the actual priority, or if priorities have shifted, because I can allow for that as well. Where from the time one comes out, then all of a sudden they say, you know what, we've shifted a little bit, and this is what it needs to be. Those are answers that we really only get through DOT, and we can bring them in for that. We can always have that conversation with the Borough Commissioner for that. The only thing I'll probably say is, before we have that conversation, I wanna make sure we kind of tie up the loose ends, because we already got him with that corridor. So I want him to make sure that CB9, he knows that CB9 is gonna follow through on the commitment with that, and we're gonna give him what our thoughts are and our plan is with that. And he's gonna tell us what he's going to do to implement that. And once we've got
Which
that.
plan, when you say that, which plan?
I think this is Kingston, right? Yeah, that Kingston corridor.
Oh, the Kingston Corridor, yes, there are roadways that are, the Kingston Corridor, yes,
Right.
that is, yeah, based on the data.
Right.
You're absolutely right, that and Rutland Road,
Right.
based on the data, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Avenue, no,
Probably not, yeah, and that's.
it was delisted from the
He's
thing.
referring to the whole plan that the committee already.
Yeah, and also, Winthrop Street, that was never on the plan.
If I could answer this, so
And plus, just one thing, I'm sorry, now I'll let you go. I did a lot of these calculations by hand, so because my old boss said, trust a little, verify a lot. So a lot of these incidents that are here, and I went through the committee meeting, a lot of these incidents do not fit into the criteria. Okay? But it appears, just by the way the presentation is, that these incidents are being used to justify the robust enhancements. All right, now I'm not saying not to do anything. If it's a dangerous corridor, there's something there, hey, do something. But it doesn't have to be as robust on streets that are already seeing a reduction in the KSI. That's my thing.
Okay.
Absolutely agree. I think that, here's the thing, I know that one of the frustrations we've had as a board, one of the frustrations we've had as a board is sometimes around the data that they present. Because just as an example, even when they did the first initial Vision Zero stuff on Eastern Parkway,
Right.
I remember vividly, I was on the transportation committee, they came with data that was 4, 5, 6 years out of date. And then when they came for the next round, the data wasn't much fresher than when they came up the first time. So part of the frustration we had was, well, what's the delta? So it's like you put Vision Zero on the strip, and now you're saying Vision Zero didn't work, so we need to do more Vision Zero on the strip. And to your point,
Right.
they never showed us any numbers that verified that.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why we're looking at this from the standpoint of, I'd rather see the district, CB9 drives the bus.
Right.
We will come up
There you
with
go.
this. We will say what the priorities are.
Yes.
This is like you sell us out this.
Yes. And on that note, you said the information was, there was a large gap in the information was presented. Okay, so this update is 2023. This presentation was June of 2024. So, listen, I'm a numbers guy. I work on data and facts. And like I said, I believe the truth, some of it, but I verify most of it. And the verification, it just doesn't add up based on the data.
Sounds to me like it's a solution looking for a problem.
Sometimes it is.
Maybe.
Or it could be a solution that somebody asked for.
Well, that's worse because then you blur the lines, right? Then then you're comparing apples with oranges. Because if it's something that somebody wants, as opposed to addressing that is a definitive need, that's apples and orange, and you blur the lines as to how you spend the money.
I think on this board, we often say the opposite thing half the time. People here are often, behave as though they're fed up of DOT looking at their own numbers and acting on their own numbers and ignoring what the community actually asks for. DOT Commissioner Bray had spoken to Dante, Fred, and myself last year and pointed out that a teacher not a teacher, probably more than one, but faculty at Wingate had asked for a plan like the one that they made. And you would hope that in a city like ours, you'd be able to kind of make a special request and not have your request sidelined 7-8 years down the line, at the end of a list of what they already had planned for the next few years. It seems to me as though DOT was responding to a sort of a bespoke ask that a school had for them. The school might not have been in the Vision Zero list, but I'm not sure if DOT thinks that should mean that they deserve nothing. I'm pretty sure that ask spurred them to do that, as the commissioner told us, and that's a pretty straightforward explanation as to why they stick a plan in there. On your second point, when you reference how this is happening all over the city, I'm also not sure that DOT just missed something, because I don't think they'd miss a thing in all 5 boroughs and tons of neighborhoods. It's probably that we don't know how much weight Vision Zero has on DOT plans. It's probably that we need to learn a bit more to understand why there's a pattern of places getting treatments and robust changes when the Vision Zero seems to have less weight than we expect.
But they came up with a priority and a criteria.
That might be 10% of their consideration.
No, it's all of it based on, I read everything. I read everything from soup to nuts, okay? And it is very definitive. The wording, how it's put, and also the funding is very definitive.
They certainly aren't acting like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's go smooth.
So we can move on. All right, I mean, we can go. But the thing is that here, we have a school here that is a priority, much higher priority than the robust work that is required or being asked for, proposed on Brooklyn and Winthrop. All right, and this is something here that we have to, a decision has to be made. All right, are we just gonna take this, throw it out the window? Because if I see it, I must ask questions.
So can't we just include that as part of the project as well, since attention is being brought to this?
Because
Well, I
let the
think
spotlight in.
we can definitely make the inquiry to that, but the thing is, I don't wanna have too many things on the burner with DOT, because that's their way of saying, well, listen, you got 6 or 7 things and we're not gonna address any one of them.
Right.
We've got one, finish this, we've got this. But absolutely, I mean, I think we need to keep our tick list. It's like, great, now that you've got this, let's go on to the next important thing. And perhaps that should be it right there in terms of that's a priority that's been
That should be a
identified.
priority.
We're
It's
talking
a
about 2
school of
schools that
color.
are close by.
Yeah, that's
Something that's already been identified, so what, and that might even be one of the quicker wins where it's like, okay, how do we get this done? Because it's already been identified.
Much higher priority,
Yeah,
it's
much
here,
higher.
you know,
With that
and
priority, my assumption is that with that priority, they would know that anything further that you have will be a priority, because you just spotted something too.
And the way this works here, this school, I'm gonna shut up after this, really, I am, right? The way this works here is that they address different routes that the kids go to school. Because I know I never went the same route at the same time all the time, all right? And that's why they call it the Safe Route, Safe Schools program, right? And that's what I mean, this is major.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, listen, I mean, and I think, that's to the point, when we're talking about traffic safety, we're really probably, an unfortunate percentage of these are, kids. Kids who are crossing streets and, especially if they gotta cross busy, busy larger streets or whatever else, those are the ones who end up being.
And there's no school safety guard?
They do.
At this location, there is, when I say this location, PS221, there is, but there is, the kids come from all different directions, and they have that major intersection on Schenectady and Empire, where Schenectady and Empire and Lefferts and Albany Avenue, Schenectady Avenue intersect, and Schenectady is a corridor.
Right.
Right? That's a priority corridor, and that's coupled with this and the high incident rate. So all I'm saying is, in the project management world, you have to have a priority. If not, you run out of funding.
Yeah.
And the funding has to be directed based on criteria, not necessarily on a want. If not, go to that. I won't say anything. But
Don't do anything out yet, because that's gonna be another conversation. So
Roger
we'll
that.
have conversations. All right, okay, all right, thank you very much. We're gonna go back, I think we've just got two more committees. Oh, actually, you're done with transportation, right? Okay.
I saved questions, but nothing else about it.
Okay, actually, yeah, so committee members, any other questions for transportation? Okay, good, good, good. All right, so, any other committees that I did not call? Well, that'll be me next.
Okay.
I got public safety and I got housing. Okay, so let's start first, public safety. All right, so public safety committee met. So for this month, there are two SLA applications that we considered that we're requesting to be recommended to the full board. That's for C-List, located over on Franklin and Union.
What's that?
C-List, C-List, yes,
Oh, C,
yes.
okay.
Okay, that's for a full liquor license, liquor, wine, beer, and cider.
Renewal?
I'm sorry?
A renewal or no?
They are new. The location is an old one, but it's a new operator who's there, so they're getting a new license there. And then the second one is for Antilles Cafe, formerly Bodega Lounge, if anybody remembers it. So, and they are for a wine, beer, and cider. Is that correct?
Antilles Cafe?
I'm sorry?
Antilles Cafe?
Antilles Cafe, yes.
You just say former bodega first, but not.
Yeah, it was
not
formerly.
part- That's not part of it.
No, that's not part of it. No, just for.
It's a new
So-
license as well.
I'm sorry?
It's also a new license.
That is a, yes, new license as well. So for both of those establishments, they came up to us. I think there's only one of them for a C-List. I think there was one stipulation we had requested that they resubmit the application. Plus, we asked for a 2 a.m. stop time for them. 2 a.m. stop time for them. The applicant agreed. The applicant actually came back, and I think they've given us some information. They used to be there. I think that was a Union Street Club that used to be there before. There were a number of issues that used to happen back and forth with the tenants and the property. But the applicant has been pretty forward, in terms of saying, listen, he's been having conversations. They're installing soundproofing materials, and they're working on, in terms of what kind of, sound that they actually have in there as well. So the applicant has been pretty forthcoming with respect to that. And the same thing with, with the Antilles Cafe. So they've actually been very aggressive in terms of installing soundproofing in there. They actually have come up with a noise mitigation plan, which the committee was very impressed by, because we think we want to make that something standard, where it's like, listen, when you come in with your applications, understanding, especially if you're in a location that has tenants in the premise, tell us what are you doing to try to make sure that you're not being, being a terrible neighbor. You try to be a good neighbor with this. So those two applications were recommended. We also heard reports from NYPD and FDNY. FDNY gave a great presentation, as a matter of fact, with respect to a lot of the safety issues. So they talked about heating season. There were a lot of tips they gave about heating season, making sure that we're watching the kids, the small ones, especially when we're doing certain things, make sure they're not around heaters, electronic things. They actually gave a very good presentation about lithium battery safety as well, about e-waste and things of that nature. So we're gonna try and get that information out. Dante and the team are always fantastic whenever they send these things out, but we want to try to make sure that's something that's regular. Heating season is a dangerous time. We want to make sure candles, especially when we have religious observances, making sure candles are being looked at and making sure they're being attended while they're there, and if people are in the rooms, that they're being taken care of as well. But we'll make sure we send that out. And again, NYPD was present as well. They gave a report. So the good news is we're down in a lot of the categories, but there were a couple of categories that are up by a few percentage points. But when we look at the categories, I also want to make sure that the caveat is, if we had 10 last year and we have 12 this year, it represents a bigger jump percentage wise. So those one or two actually make a difference, so, you know, you have to claim those as increases. But when we're looking at the numbers and not significant increases, where we're talking about like, oh, you know, this category went up 340, 500%. Some percentage points here and there, but otherwise, I think consistent with the narrative, crime is going down. But we're gonna try and make sure we get that information, and we're gonna be able to share that to the board as well, so that way you have that as part of the PS report. We also had a conversation, so part of what the Public Safety Committee is doing as well, because it becomes a conversation for the board, is we're trying to develop standards and criteria for the board to consider SLA applications. So we're looking at making sure that we have a clear understanding of what rules apply. So for example, we always hear terminology about the 200-foot rule, the 500-foot rule. We want to make sure that that's information that is upfront when applicants come and they've addressed those issues. You know, again, with noise mitigation plans in terms of what are acceptable, you know, standards with regards to noise, how enforcement is done. We're also looking at trying to make sure we can hopefully standardize around times, so that we're not having conversations around, well, this establishment can have 3 a.m., but this establishment gets 4 a.m., but this establishment gets 2 a.m. We're trying to see if there's a consistent standard that we can apply across the board, so that way we don't have to have these arguments as a board when it comes up. It's something that's agreed upon in terms of legally they can go up to a certain time. The stipulation will be of the board that yes, we'll support your application as long as you go to this time because it's respectful of the district. Sure, one second. Hold that one button because you get old. But being able to just make sure we have those things, noise mitigation plans, putting those into those. Figuring also making sure that we have a notification plan that also includes enough some information, so that way, for example, whenever they come before the board, one of the notices that they'll have to put up is on their establishment and in the premises where they're going to be. So that way residents also have an idea of doing that. Ways of actually being able to lodge complaints about establishments, so if things go wrong, however we do that. So it's ambitious, but we're trying to establish that framework, and the goal is to try and make sure we're able to get that sorted out so that way we can present it to the board, and hopefully it streamlines the conversations. We don't have to have arguments, but it also sets clear expectations in terms of anybody who's coming into the district. This is what Community District 9 expects from anybody who comes in, and this is how we're operating. I'm sorry, Felice, go ahead.
That's good. So when you say 200 feet, is that from schools? I'm trying to understand the distance.
Right, 200-foot rule means that you can't be within 200 feet of schools, places of worship, and there might be one or two other places.
On the same side of the street.
On the same, exactly. So it's a linear measurement on the same side of the street, so it doesn't count if it's across the street, doesn't count if it's around the corner. So, sorry?
What's the 500 rule?
500-foot rule means there's only a certain amount of establishments that can be within 500.
That's
Right, so exactly, that's the density question. Typically, that's either done by the applicant, or if that rule is triggered, usually we will hear from the SLA. They'll say, well, listen, we understand that there's a bunch of these things in here, they're gonna trigger a hearing, and they'll ask for a response from the board as well. But just to say that that's the kind of information we wanna make sure all board members have. We're also looking into, Dante and the team have been very good, fantastic as per usual, in terms of getting us resources as well. So we've been able to tap into SLA resources, Department of Environmental Protection resources as well, in terms of noise and the different things, and who's responsible for responding to different things as well. So not that I expect anybody to remember this. This is going to be something that we're developing as a guide, and hopefully creating a resource handbook for the board in terms of understanding what SLA is, how the process works, and what the expectations are of the board that we can share out as well again.
All right, with all of our specifications, speculations, everything be a language what the city will say?
Yes and no. It's a yes and a no, yeah. So I say that to say, for example, one of the things that we want to be clear of, and I think you've heard it from applicants, is the state liquor law says that you can serve until 4 a.m. You can legally serve until 4 a.m. What we found in the district is that we're like, no, we're not that kind of a district. It's like, especially we have a lot of these places, they live in, they're in, they share spaces with tenants. So, if you got small children, or you have to get up early in the work, to go to work in the morning, you don't want people giggling and laughing and having a good time all hours of the night. Yeah. So we want to make sure that there's a compromise. There is a compromise in understanding that people are coming in, they're bringing in jobs. People have to have an opportunity to make money, but at the same time, what's reasonable? So we can set that in terms of what's reasonable. And, you know, and by setting that as what's reasonable, our expectation, it makes people, you know, understand right off the bat. If I come to CB9, they automatically expect me to come to 2. If I want it to be the party spot and going to 4, maybe CB9 is not the place for me to be. And that's fair.
Someone else, could it be overruled with all of that specifications?
Now,
By, you know,
with that being said, part of the conversation that's gonna happen is we need to understand
So we can
that
obviously
we are
fight.
advisory, as we always are in all these places. But part of what happens is, if we are fair, we always have a stronger argument with the SLA.
Right.
Because if we can say that, you know, one of the concerns that I always have is if we're arbitrary and capricious with the way we do things. So if I said my friend can have it until 4 a.m., but this business can't have it until 1:30, or if I say things like, okay, well, listen, you can't start serving, you can only serve alcohol between 9 and 12. That's when we lose credibility with SLA. SLA usually takes the recommendations of the boards pretty seriously, and they'll look at it. But I just want to make sure that we're in a position where it's like, you know, this is where we landed on, and there's a reason why, and we're consistent with it. So if you come before the board, as long as you're doing X, Y, and Z, and you're being a good neighbor, we can deal with that.
Anyone to say?
This 4 a.m. rule is statewide or is it community based?
No, that's the law.
So
Well,
the entire
no,
state?
not the entire state. I take it back. For Brooklyn, because
Entire
it's
Brooklyn.
county specific. For Kings County, 4 a.m. I would hazard to guess. I didn't look at the other boroughs, but I would hazard to guess Manhattan is probably similar. Queens maybe less. I'm not sure. But at least for Kings County, we were able to confirm that 4 a.m. is the maximum time. So can they legally ask for it? Sure, they can. Is it something we have to live with? Probably not, and we just need to make sure that we're consistent with that as well. Okay? So we're working on that. So we're hoping in the next couple of months or so to hopefully be able to get the framework down so that way we can present to the board and have that conversation in terms of, listen, this is the way we want to do to make sure it's consistent. Part of that will be creating the handbook, creating a guide. We're talking about creating a wireframe to, you know, how does this information work and how do we process that? And, you know, a top sheet probably, and maybe some changes done to the questionnaire the way we currently have it. So just as a flavor in terms of what's coming forward. But I want to thank the committee. They've been really, really earnest. And I would invite anyone who's interested in the conversation, because this will be something on the agenda for the next couple of months. Please feel free to come by as well, or if you want to watch virtually as well. I would tell you when we meet, but it's not going to be the same this month. But I don't want to steal Dante's thunder.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions for public safety? All right. So I have those 2 action items that we need. That's going to be
What's
for,
the actual two
yeah,
aspects?
for C-List
Got
and
it.
for Antilles Cafe.
Got it.
Okay. All right. We're going to go quickly into the next one, last one for the evening, housing. So housing has definitely been a concern in terms of the committee has had issues getting quorum and getting people to come for the last couple of months. So we had discussed this. So per the conversation that the executive committee had, the office and I, we were able to have conversations to do outreach to the committee members. So we've gotten commitments, or we've gotten verbal commitments from a number of them saying that they wanted to continue on in the committee. We did have the committee meeting for this month. We did not have quorum. But I would say that we did have a good number of people who were there, and it was very positive energy, and I think we found a good core in terms of, you know, how we can move forward with that. So there was some good idea generation in terms of things that the housing committee is probably going to concentrate on for the next few months. One of the action items I have to do is I have to consider, I'm going to work with some of the board members who were there. We need to get leadership there as well. It's going to be training, because I don't have a lot of board members who are currently there. So it's probably going to be a certain scenario where there may be some co-chairs established, or we just need to make sure there's a lot of support around the chairs. So I may be asking officers from, you know, some of the officers to attend their meetings just to help them out as they're going along, just to kind of make sure that they're on the right track if they need support. I will continue to support them in any way we can, as well as the district office in terms of making sure they get the support they need as well.
Is the action the same day as the ULIT meeting?
Still, so yeah, and I know that was a concern that had arisen as well. Given the state that the housing committee is in, it's probably not likely that, the vision I had at the beginning of the year is I wanted the 2 committees working a lot more closely and meeting jointly as often as possible. I think housing has got their own things they need to shop right now.
Okay, cool.
So aside from maybe a meeting jointly, just so that way, because I do believe still that they have a lot of things that they need to cross-pollinate on, and they should have conversation with everybody else is saying. But that's probably going to be on the side when it's appropriate. So the committee will be able to decide that, the committees will be able to decide that when it's appropriate for them.
I asked because I attended ULIT, so I could easily walk over, as I did, and I saw you,
Right,
to sit here for.
exactly. So I asked you to walk a couple times, right?
All right.
So, but yeah, but I mean, but ultimately, but it was great energy. I think there's some great ideas. It's definitely a vital committee, and I want to get them up and running. And I just say that further down the line, we see where we want to go with them. Whether it's better to keep them as two standalone committees, where they just try and get together more often. Perhaps we say housing and ULURP have enough in common where it's like maybe we should join them together, and maybe one becomes a subcommittee of the other or something like that. Possible. All to say that I'm not married to anything. I think that it's going to be a matter of as we go along, this will be here. We'll figure it out. We're going to figure it out. I just want to thank the exec committee again for all your assistance with this and for your attention to this. I want to thank the members of the housing committee who came in. I do want to also be very clear and be frank. I think that in the housing committee, one of the problems we saw is that there are a number of people who've made commitments and they're not honoring the commitments. So there may be some moves that we are going to need to make. And actually, as I say that, there are a couple of members who have been recommended to be removed from the committee. Now, that is going to have some other implications as well, potentially, because if you are not on a committee, you are required to be on a committee by board rules. So there's some other conversations that we have to have in terms of how does this get rectified. Still a little bit early, so I'm going to be getting back to you. Hopefully, we'll let you know in terms of where we're landing with this. But there might be some implications in terms of board, committee membership and board membership. And this is probably the best time to have that conversation as well for all the committee chairs. If you're having problems, if you have members on your roster that you have never seen before, please reach out to Dante and me and let's have that conversation about whether it's in your interest to keep them going. Because as we see from the board level, when you have, I was going to say something else, but when you have people who don't show up, it affects your ability to be able to get anything done. So you know what, I'd rather you have less people on your committee that are committed to doing the work, and we're going to show up and we'll be able to get done whatever we have to get done, as opposed to, we're struggling to make a quorum on a committee and you can't get any business done, you can't get any voting items done, you can't get any business in front of the board. So that's what we're looking at with that.
You have an action item for housing for tonight.
I'm sorry?
You say that an action item for tonight.
No.
Okay. No action.
So that completes the housing report. Any questions from the members of the exec?
No, just want to say good enough. They tried.
But thank you to everyone on the exec and to get to Dante and the team as well. And I want to be very clear, because I know it's come up where people have put out this vision where this is a concerted effort to destroy housing or to do something or whatever else. It's never that. And I want to be very clear as well in terms of, we do a lot in terms of outreach. I want to speak about the district office team in terms of they send tons of emails and notices and calendar items and everything else. One of the challenges we have is nobody responds. And I mean, that's the dynamic we have to look at in the board as well, where it's like we at least have to have the common courtesy to say, click yes, I'm coming, or no, I'm not able to make it. And we can live with that. Or there are other conversations that need to be had, and we get it. People are human beings, and we're living human experiences. Sometimes it's a bad patch, it's a rough time, and we can understand that as well. All we ask is for that communication. But this is all part and parcel of the larger conversation that we're having with the boards as well. Okay? All right, now I'll shut up.
That's it.
Please do
Got you.
All right. Okay, so that's all we have for housing, no action items. Okay, 2 items. Let's do, 3 items that we're going to do there. We're going to have the administrative report. I'm going to have a very short to almost no, very, very short chairman's report, and then we're going to do the, what?
I mean,
Go ahead, take your time out. Watch. Go ahead, Dante.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Just want to remind everyone that the Department of Transportation has an opportunity to expand its network of curbside electric chargers. We've been disseminating this flyer through the e-blast. I think as of now, we've gotten about 56 submissions. So definitely we're going to keep sending that out. know people are interested in the topic or have concerns or definitely don't want this type of infrastructure built on their street, they should fill out this survey, so we're at least aware of that. And that information obviously will be compiled and given to the committee and the public. There's not a deadline for this, so definitely just continue to blast it out. DOT hasn't provided a deadline. I will reiterate that the locations that are being considered are President Street between Utica and Rochester, Schenectady between President and Union, and Schenectady between Union and Eastern Parkway. The Summer Youth Employment Program, SYEP, the application is now open. Youth in the city ages 14 to 24 may apply. The deadline is February 28th, so definitely need to get your applications in as soon as possible. Yeah, and we blasted that out as well, so definitely if folks are interested, they can look in the e-blast. Fiscal year 26 discretionary funding, expense application filing period. If you are a nonprofit that's interested in applying for a discretionary fund from the New York City Council, that deadline actually is tomorrow. So if you plan to fill out the application, you should fill it out as soon as possible so you can get funding from the council. Apply to run for Community and Citywide Education Council. The application deadline was extended until the 27th of February. We have the information in our e-blast. Actually, we just got the information. We'll put it in the e-blast. So if you know anybody who might be interested in applying for that, you can connect them to the board office and we'll get that information to them. Again, that deadline is the 27th of this month. You heard earlier from the ULERP chair, the City Planning Commission's 7399 Empire Boulevard rezoning. Public hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you plan to go in person, you can go to 120 Broadway Street in Lower Manhattan to testify in person. Also coming up is the second public hearing for SUNY Downstate. That has been scheduled for Thursday, the 27th, from 6 to 9 p.m. That public hearing will be at Medgar Evers College, 1650 Bedford Avenue. We've been blasting it out, and we'll continue to blast it out up until, so please direct people to that public hearing as well. Just a couple of administrative things. The community board applications are closed. We didn't receive any information about any extended deadline. So all questions regarding applications should be directed to the Borough President's office. You can email the BP's office at cbapplication@brooklynbp.nyc.gov, or you can call their office at 718-802-3700. On the 16th of February in the evening, there was a structural fire that occurred at 421 Sterling Place. A two-story dwelling, 0 civilian casualties were reported, and that fire was placed under control shortly after. Committee meeting, just a couple changes for next month. Parks and Public Safety will not be on March 15th. It will be on March 5th, which is already indicated on the calendar. There is Purim during that week, so we had to flip it. So note anyone who are on those committees or interested in those conversations, it will be on that Wednesday. We have updated our agendas just a little bit. So moving forward, you'll see on the agendas here below the officers, we have the WhatsApp and our YouTube channel. We've put QR codes so people can get to those spaces pretty quickly. We're accessible, so we want people to view our meetings, take in the information. So moving forward, all the agendas committee and the general board will have this on it so people can get to that moving forward.
One question,
Please.
are you guys going to, or did you link the images so people who are seeing it on the phone on a computer can click on it?
Where?
The YouTube logo over here and the WhatsApp logo.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
so-
but I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. All right. And I think that's
that?
Oh, and just a couple more things. On Mondays and Wednesdays here at the board office, if you know of any folks who might need legal counseling, landlord mediation, housing support, benefits enrollment, housing counseling, organization, Good Shepherd Services comes into the office, you can give them a call. We have the flyer. Zachary has been great taking appointments. They meet in here. You can get all those services during those hours. That organization provides that. And then we also, created a WhatsApp, as I mentioned before. We put this in the e-blast and have it hanging up out in the front, so folks who go by can sign up for that. But yeah, that's the finality of my report.
There was a major fire on Eastern Parkway between New York and Brooklyn. You know about this?
I did not get that
I think it was
notification.
Sunday. I don't know the address.
You said on Eastern?
Eastern Parkway between New York and Brooklyn.
Was the fire hydrant working?
The entire block is lined up with emergency vehicles. So.
Okay, fire. You said maybe Sunday?
I think it's on Sunday.
Okay. Okay, I'll look into that.
Hey, Dante,
Didn't receive anything about
just a question, since we're on the Sterling Street fire,
Yes.
you won't know anything about the Eastern Parkway, but do you know the cause of the fire?
So the way that they send it is basically, this is who showed up, and this is very broad. A fire happened.
I got you.
They typically don't send out even the cause report thereafter, unless it's inquired.
I know that the Eastern Parkway fire, I believe, was started with a heater.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here we go,
Season, yeah, unfortunately.
It was a Sunday too.
Okay.
here we go.
Okay.
Thank God, those people would, the building was actually a dorm for students.
Yeah.
And I think like 5 of them ended up in the hospital for smoke inhalation. But thank God there was no serious injuries.
That's good. All right, yeah, I'll look into that. Didn't receive anything from that. All right, that's it for me.
Any other questions? Ms. Watson Lord, Ethan,
The secretary has to come.
please?
Good.
We're good? Okay, all right, we're gonna go into the chair's report. Very brief, very brief. So I think, one, we just covered attendance, so please make sure for all the committee chairs, if you have people who have not shown up, so if they've not shown up 3 meetings in a row, they're subject to removal. Let me know, send an email to Dante and myself, and we can have the conversation about removing them from your committee. Or if it's more than 50% over a few months. So like if it's over like 5, I think we're at 5-6 months now. If they haven't showed up to over half the meetings, even if it's not 3 meetings, it's like, let's have the conversation. Yeah, so Dante, thank you for discussing the downstate town hall meeting. So that's gonna be on February 27th. Now, the ask that they're asking there is, I think there's about, I can never remember the amount. There's funds that have been released from the state that are gonna go towards.
750 million.
Thank you, 750 million that are gonna go towards downstate. Sounds good, but there are a lot more issues in downstate than $750 million.
That's it.
So I want us to be very clear-eyed in terms of, okay, it sounds great for a first round of investment, but there needs to be deeper conversations about what's going on in downstate, and I'll share this. I'm a little bit frustrated as well, because I think there's a lot of answers we still haven't gotten in terms of what exactly is it going to take to get downstate to where it needs to be. Because $750 million keeps it open for another year or two or something like that, but guess what? If the infrastructure's still rotting, if the rooms are not usable or whatever else, it doesn't make sense. We need to have a more holistic plan in terms of what are we going to do to make sure downstate is sustainable and viable. And not just keeping the doors open. I mean, how do we make sure that this is an institution that is really gonna serve the needs of the community? And in what ways? So Dante and I are gonna be reaching out to the governor's office and to a number of other entities as well, because we need to have more transparency in terms of what is the full plan. Because to say we're gonna spend $750 million is not going to be sufficient. We need to know what they're gonna do with downstate.
You wanna know how they got into the hole in the first place?
How they got into the hole, it may be painful, but guess what? That's gonna be part of the conversation that has to happen. And the part of that's gonna be, what is the plan to make sure that, we are gonna make sure it's sustainable, because $750 million is not a number that's gonna cut it, clearly. I'm working with my counterparts at CB17 and CB14 as well. And I've talked to the borough board about that and trying to make sure that they understand this is a borough wide issue. Downstate has a catchment of 2 million people. So which means most of Brooklyn is in the catchment of downstate.
Brooklyn's population is like 2.2 million.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's not too many people who do not, are not affected by anything that happens in downstate. So we wanna make sure that it's
Heavily used.
And it's a school as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the only teaching institution down here, and it provides most of the workforce in the medical field. Down here. Most people who go to downstate, they stay here, and they take care of us. So we need to make sure that downstate is being kept, is being supported fully. All right, just as a quick heads up, we are now in February, so it's not too early for us to start thinking we're probably behind. Community fair coming up in a few months. Please, in the committees, if there is anything you want to see as part of the fair, any events, any features or facets, please make sure you're discussing in your committees and get that to Dante yesterday. Only because he needs to start doing outreach in terms of making sure that we can secure facilities, if there's additional resources and things we need to pull in, or if there's any budgetary items he needs to consider, he needs to start being able to do that and start budgeting that stuff.
Any date for that yet?
No date yet. It's probably going to be very similar. Usually we look in that first weekend in June. It tends to be the sweet spot where we work with that. We're not locked into any details, but Dante and the team will be taking care of that in terms of starting the preliminary conversations about getting that done.
We normally have it in the month of, June?
June, yeah, the first Saturday in June, typically.
Not locked in. Probably is going to be more of that, but I mean, if there's any recommendations or suggestions, please let Dante know. Last piece I have, and this actually should have been something I should have included as part of the housing. So one of the things we're also working on is, I'm sorry?
I just want, my only suggestion was to move it to Sunday instead of Saturday.
We're gonna try, and I definitely understand the sensitivity. Part of the issue we've had in the past is it became a who's gonna show up, because unfortunately we had a lot of vendors who were not available on the Sunday. And I understand, definitely, but it was a matter of how many people can we get there to make sure they're successful. Saturday's tended to. Always worth asking the question again. So Dante, if it's something, if it's an option, we can ask vendors. Do they have availability on the Sunday?
There's a survey.
Listen, just say if they have availability on the Sunday. Let's see what we can do.
Just for the QR code, who has that? So
Or maybe we've gotten so big we can make it a 2-day event.
That's what I was saying.
Ah.
Yes. That
Good
would
one,
be
Fred.
smarter.
I'm sorry.
That's a good one.
That's
wait, hold on.
we have to be.
You
Yes.
mean break down, put back up to them?
Sorry.
About the community fair, what does that really consist of? I'm trying to remember which event was it that I attended.
So it's usually it's outside. So the last couple of years we've had it over by Rodman Park, and we just set up tables and we have vendors, we have agencies, and they come and they you can sign up for services or you can get information about different things.
Did it have 3 bouncy houses?
Yeah.
That's how I remember it.
No,
No,
we
no,
didn't
no,
have
that's
it.
Diana
No, no, no.
Richardson's,
Okay.
Yeah.
We have
Of all the
That's
different.
that.
on Empire, you're thinking
Uh,
of? That was Diana
But
Richardson.
Dante put a note in. We want a bouncy
No,
house.
that's not ours, that's not ours.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids want a bouncy house.
Right, that's
I want about.
That's it.
But to that point, and thanks for asking that question. I mean, those things that let's put that on the wish list, and let's see what happens when we do with that. Because I mean, I think we have a good amount of space, well, depending on what the wish list is, may depend on may dictate what the location is and what kinds of things we need as well. But let's put that out there so Dante can have that. He can, do what he needs to do in terms of working his magic.
Sweet, like our burger thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's options for that. Now, part of it might become budgetary, and I always say that it's important for us to preface. There are some things that Dante can easily purchase through through the vendor process. Some other things are a little bit harder, like a bouncy house is a little bit harder to get those payments through. But I think will is away, right, Dante?
Yeah,
That's it.
that's right.
But
I don't wanna know.
but let's put those ideas out. And even if it's a matter of maybe we need to get other people involved, or we can get co-sponsorships, so people will take care of those things. Let's put that out there. We can see what we can do. Okay. The last piece I had, this was unfortunately I meant to put it during housing. So one of the things we are working on is one of the members of the board has reached out to the Fortune Society. They do they do a lot of work with affordable housing. So I think, especially in the vein that we're looking at these, we get a number of projects, we're saying there's nothing affordable. We think it's helpful for us to get an idea of what goes into the affordable housing, what resources are out there to support that, so that maybe we can, go on offense instead and talk about, listen, how do we partner with different agencies to try and make projects that are affordable in the district. So Dante's working on, trying to, see if we can schedule that and get a venue for that as well. So just keep an ear out for that, for the exec and for board members who are listening as well. That's all I have. What time? But I will take questions, at this time. Any questions?
No. Oh, no, that was
No?
good. That was good. That was good.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we are now, at item 5,
Agenda.
to set the agenda.
Good one.
Okay.
I love it.
All right, let's skip this. All right, so,
Before we start, can we agree to time the items on the agenda?
we.
Doesn't need to be,
No, we'll do that.
doesn't need to be like a hard
We'll
limit,
do
but
that.
just.
And let me say this, actually, let me just one last part. I have heard from a number of board members, I know it is frustrating. It is frustrating to come out to the meetings and we don't get the agenda done. Because one, you just feel like you wasted an evening, and two, all that happens is the stuff we didn't do the month before ends up being on the next agenda, we
And
gotta
then the next
double up
one.
all of a sudden. So we are going to do our best to try and make sure we get through this as quickly as possible. Now, what I'm going to need from all the members of the board is to understand this. We've got to be short and sweet and concise. We don't need to ask extra questions, we need to do the homework in advance. We need to make sure we're respecting and adhering to time guidelines. And I think one other thing that we need to get used to as a board, and we'll talk about this, is there are just some conversations that we can't entertain. As much as I want to have this conversation here and get a vote, it's not time and place. But, that means that we got to prep the question, we got to answer a whole bunch of things, we got to go through an amendment process, and we've seen this happen before on a number of levels. That is time consuming. There are some questions, it's just like, if it's something we want to see done, put it out for the board, we can refer to a committee, or we can have an appropriate conversation and set it up for another month. So unless it's absolutely urgent, we need to stay away from those things. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, so that's what we need to do with that.
Okay, I think a first good step would be timing it, because that way we can actually start to get some cooperation from folks who are in the audience.
Right.
Because if people just think they'll talk, there's no limit, they keep going.
There
If you
is-
could contain the time.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that's part of it,
They'll
but
figure
part
it
of
out.
it is also too, I think that people, some they don't, and I have to, I'm just gonna go out and say it. I think too many of us sometimes just want our own airtime. just
That's
our
true,
own
yeah,
voice.
you wanna get it sometimes.
And then you know what, I understand people wanna be heard, but also you have to understand that there's 50 people wanna be heard, and guess what, it doesn't do the community any good if all of a sudden, I wanna take this to get on my soapbox and take my 5 minutes of time so I can wave at my fans in YouTube land. Yes.
Okay, there was a suggestion in the conversation that maybe we usually leave the important things like the voting items to the end. Could we move up the voting items now? I was said, well, suppose there a voting item that come from the floor. And it was like, if that's come from the floor for that night, maybe that could go on the next month's agenda. But the ones that's for this month's agenda, we already know what should be voting items. We vote for them early instead of all after the committee meetings and stuff like that. Maybe we could look at that. Because that is the main thing that suffers because we put it at the end.
My point on that is I feel like, we can't move it before public session, I'm not sure if that is the best move because.
Anywhere, but we want to make sure, because we've got voting items that will be put back for 3 months now from 2024,
Yeah,
right? So
Right.
we know these things that would be voting items. Those that would be voting items that before could move up now. If during the meeting it comes up that there should be another voting item, that voting item, if we have time, could have been at the end, or that one could move to be on the next agenda for the next meeting.
I hear
But we
that.
gotta look at it.
I don't think it would be good to have public session last, because you have people who didn't sign up for this waiting until like 9:30 to talk, which is, I think,
Yes,
unfair to
but
them.
I could understand that but when we give them all that time to talk, our important work goes up to the window because it was at the end of the meeting. So we gotta put 6 and 7, which is the most important for CB9, to have everybody come off the road to speak on the same topic, one after each other. Or we put our business session, which is our voting items, early up in the agenda, get them off, and then we've got time to choose, how our speaking engagement score.
It's understandable, but I think we should make sure nothing gets left off the agenda, you know, we should like.
But we have not been doing a good job at that,
Well,
if you want
well,
to say, we have not been doing a good
Well,
job.
this is part of the reason why.
So there's a good reason for us to rethink.
Well, here's the thing, part of
Next
the,
time we'll fix it.
but some of the issues that come and you know, maybe we need to rethink things. Part of the reason why I think that we would put the voting items where they are is because the meeting before, all the items in the conversation should inform what we're doing by the time we get to the voting session. I hate doing the idea of, you know, like, for example, like, I've been hesitant to say, let's move the voting items way earlier up. Because, like, for example, public commentary should inform what we're looking at, or hopefully make us think about some questions that have. Voting items in the business session, we should go a lot quicker, but then again, because when we get to the business session, it is, yeah, well, that's because, well, here's the other piece. Well, let me just clear this.
Yeah.
The other piece of that is, we're gonna start early, we're gonna start on time, 7 o'clock, we're rolling.
Yes.
We're rolling at 7 o'clock for one.
That'll save 15
You
minutes,
wanna
but
do
that?
like, that might save us 10, 15 minutes.
It
but we're
would,
still,
no,
like, so we start
7
at
o'clock,
8:15.
we're rolling, we're gonna
Alright.
keep going through. I think by the time we get to it, and again, I think it's just, you know, there's not too much controversy, and we just need to be very clear to the point we're gonna time some of these things. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what,
If I could like.
let's do this, well, let's do
add
this,
some
let's do
points
this.
on this, cause I feel like.
Well,
Like
let's do this,
before
let's
committee
get the
reports.
agenda first,
Yes.
and then let's time it.
Yeah,
And then we'll
let's-
see what we're looking at and what this.
Yeah, because we have SLAs
You
that
can-
end up taking 30 minutes. That's a problem.
Yeah,
Because
it takes
there's no
30
case
minutes.
where that works.
Right,
You know?
and here's the thing, but part of that is because we have members who want to all of a sudden grandstand and ask for things
Yeah,
that are
move
not
the
necessarily
committee.
done.
Right,
So
if they-
move the committee
If they
reports.
understand, like,
Move the
if they
committee
understand
reports.
that this item
They
will
should be
take
written,
10
we should
minutes.
come here with them already.
Right?
But that's what I'm
They
saying,
will
so,
learn,
Move
okay,
the
I
committee
need to take,
reports.
I'll talk for 2.
but that's what I'm saying.
They'll
No,
figure that out.
well, here's what's gonna happen, and
Go.
I'm sorry, I see you were gonna recognize what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's put down things that we have to do, and let's put the timeframes. And some of these timeframes may
So you
be,
like time frames
the
for that,
voting
go.
session is 10 minutes, and guess what? If we don't get it done in 10 minutes, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you see, again,
That's
it is at risk. Because if we don't get it done in 10 minutes,
Right.
but we would have our committee reports, which should be in, which is usually distributed with, on the business or all that paper, CB9 uses. People should come here with it already read.
Right.
Right, but
Right?
I'm saying, look,
Now,
if those
the
reports take
majority-
2 minutes.
The majority, that's
That's
not
it.
true, the majority of the time, the committee chairs, or speaking about the committee report, have it written and come and sit down and waste our time listening to it again. Why can't
Well-
we read it and go home?
All right, well, listen, let's do this, let's create the agenda,
Okay.
and then we'll discuss the timings from there.
We do
All right.
have to read the minutes though?
So, public,
Some suggestion.
yeah, I'm so sorry, yeah.
I just have a suggestion. I
Yes.
don't know, I mean, if somebody wanna nominate themselves as the hard parent and just mic mute. Mic mute.
That's, I mean,
It's
I have been.
it's so easy.
Looking,
It's
no,
so easy to do. Yes,
no, my thing is people have
yes,
issues
it
with that,
is.
people have
Yes,
issues with
it
that.
is.
But I think that's a more drastic move. I wanna start off by
Look at
saying,
what's been happening.
yeah, I wanna start out with just timing stuff because people, like, you know, there's a saying that work fills whatever time it's given. I think that's true here too. I think if we have an SLA and it's just whenever it's done, and we look and it's 27 minutes later, people will just, you know, they'll keep on going. But if I have a countdown that's like 15 minutes long or 10 minutes long, people are gonna be like, oh, we have 1 minute left, let me make my question fast. And they'll cooperate and they'll shrink it down in time.
But most of the time, a lot of people have it. So
So
if you're giving them that 2 minute, 1 minute warning, and they still wanna go over,
Yes.
you, that's it.
That's
They
fair.
have the 2 minute warning,
I
and
think-
you can't say, oh, I didn't know it was ending.
That's fair. I'm with that. But I mean, I want to give them at least a little warning first. So they can, so we see how it goes. Because last November, I tried that out the time thing. And we were about like, we didn't even go over. We ended at, I think, if I remember, like 9:29 out of 9:30, and it was fine. And I think it could work if we do it on a more regular basis.
Suggestion.
Well, I'll nominate myself if somebody,
Okay.
needs somebody.
So they do have microphones that you can attach to a timer.
Yeah.
When the time ends, the mic just cuts off. That way,
That's
there's
the-
no
that's the
one
other
person
thing,
that can be
yes.
targeted as you cut my
I mean,
time
look,
off.
some people will continue to just yell and talk and make sure that whatever they're saying is being heard.
Not a CVI.
Security. That's
Security doesn't.
We've had that issue.
Oh, we don't have security.
Not always. We do at times.
Oh, we do?
Not every meeting. You don't really.
That becomes another process. But
Yes.
but look,
Right.
but let's
Let's
go into this. Okay, so here we go.
Read the board.
All right,
Call
so
to
public
order.
session, call to order, rules of conduct. Presentations. We have 2 SLA. We have C-List and we have Antilles Cafe. Now, you have the revised,
The recommendation of
The recommendation.
plan, yeah, from the DOT.
do you want to present that? Do you want to give a quick 30 seconds?
I will, I always do. I'll do it.
All right, so we're gonna put down,
It was 3 minutes last time or last, I'll take probably 2.
okay, so we're gonna put down, so this is, what was, I'm sorry, bike safety plan?
Yeah,
Bike safety plan.
safety bike then.
Okay, so bike safety plan. Bike safety plan update,
Yeah.
Fred,
yes.
aren't the SLA presentations sort of like redundant because they already did it for public safety board?
And I'm glad you said this.
Yes.
This is something I'm thinking about, and maybe we consider this. I'm not sure how much more value we get because they say, "Hi, I'm over here, and this is it." Because really, I think the value is if you're more interested in seeing that the applicant come to the public safety committee meeting.
You know, the packet's already in the,
There, right.
it's in the book,
That's what I'm
you can see,
saying.
you can read the, when it comes to vote, you know, if you
Right.
wanna.
Well, here's the thing.
I
'Cause
think,
typically,
I think having them there is important because people can ask them, you know, you can ask them like,
but
what's
here's the
your.
thing. The problem is this.
Something like that,
But the
yeah.
problem is this, and maybe this is something we need to consider. When we open the floor, because I've seen that, I've probably opened up Pandora's box when it comes to this, because then we want to ask a whole lot of questions that are not always appropriate, or you know, well, what's on your menu? Why don't you serve
Yes.
tacos? Or whatever it is, and everything else. I'm like, and that's not a good way, good use of the time.
Right.
Alternatively, they can say hi, but I'm not taking questions. This is just an introduction, and they're not taking questions after that.
Just wanna
Everything else
see
is
you
in the
so we know
packet. They've come and they've fulfilled everything else.
So
So
we're gonna take questions when we're, before we vote on it.
that might be the only thing. I mean, only questions
Yeah,
that will
like
come
what
from board
we'll
members. But I want to be careful with that again because that's going to explode in our faces.
Mhm.
But let's come back to that. We'll come back to that. Let's come back to that. So SLA, so public safety, we have CEDA's, Antilles Cafe, and then we have the bike safety plan update. So you get that. Okay, after that, then we are going to go to public commentary. Yep, then we go to acknowledgements,
Business session.
correct. Then we go to business session. Now, this is gonna be fun. Okay, so we're gonna have roll call. We are going to have approval of minutes. We have to approve the January minutes. Plus, we also have the unapproved,
All in
Special
January and January
Yes.
special committee.
yeah, approval of minutes.
Are we, okay. Special
Let's just run through the list and we'll talk about how long that everything's gonna take.
Mhm.
The minutes for January 25.
January 9th?
Yep, and, yeah, well, January 25 and the special, special
I
meeting.
think that was around that, because I was on the course.
Yeah, and a special meeting. Okay, after that, we are now going to go to approve the minutes, then we're gonna have committee reports. After that, we are going to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, back to my, I don't want to, take this too long, back to my committee reports. You usually ask for the committee report if there's anything that they want to add on, that's not written.
Only if you got it
And then
original.
if people gets up and call, bring up the whole report, and then everybody has asked questions, and that is our.
You know,
time.
committee reports, I don't think we usually get too bad into.
No,
It's-
it'd be good, but you need to eliminate it.
Well, listen, it's, and the instruction is gonna be, whatever you got a minute.
Okay, cool.
Nothing more than a minute, so if you have a major item or, an announcement, that's it, but you got cut off after 60 seconds. And usually we don't get more than 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, so committee reports, after that, we will have, Maya, did you wanna give well, let me see, district manager's report. we're gonna have, Monty, did you wanna give a treasurer's report this month, or you wanna defer
Now,
for this?
if there's, we didn't do one last one, if we have time. I guess it's like 3 minutes if even.
Okay, well, here's the thing, even if you just prepare the report's for informational purposes,
Yeah, it's in the packet.
it's in the packet.
Yeah.
For informational purposes, okay, so we'll put you down as treasurer's report. And I will have a chair's report. And then we go into voting items, voting session.
Here we have district manager.
Yeah, after committee reports, district manager's report, then the treasurer and the chair. Then we go to voting session. Now, in the voting session, we are going to have, let's see, not in a particular order. We're gonna have the SLA applications. So C list,
That's what it is too.
yep. We're gonna have Antilles Cafe.
Back from last week, you got the bike lane.
We're gonna have the bike lane safety report.
Then we have authorized pay and,
We have two items. We have a career day vote.
right, at the top.
Yep. Career day. We do. Town hall, education town hall. Let me see, we do have some removals scheduled. And let me just check my list here, hold on. Okay, bike lane, career day, that, we got, two of those. Nothing for housing, DM, I didn't hear any report, anything we need to do, land use, nothing. Okay, all right, so that's the voting session, and then we have new business. And then adjournment. All right. We have yet again a full agenda.
What's the 10 items?
I'm sorry?
10 items?
6.
Or 6, okay.
Well, as I say, 6, removals, who's not there?
In the office.
Okay.
That should not get on.
We had a couple of removals, but I don't think they should be controversial removals. Most of them I'm talking about is probably members you've never seen. The numbers are pretty clear, it's not like, there's anything. So, we could probably do them as one package, take care of that. All right, so, I'm going to read out the agenda and we're going to take the times. So, public session, it's going to be call to order, rules of conduct. Presentations, we're going to have SLA, we're going to have C-List and Antilles Cafe, plus we're going to have the public safety, the bike safety plan update. And you can correct the language on that one.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, then we're gonna have public comment, then we have acknowledgements. Business session, roll call, it's gonna be approval of the minutes for January 25 and the special meeting. It's gonna be the committee reports, then we're gonna have the DM report, treasurer's report, chair's report, voting session, then we go to voting session, then there's gonna be 6 items. We have the 2 SLAs, C-List and Antilles Cafe. We've got the bike lane safety proposal. We've got the career day for Education Library, along with Education Town Hall. The last one, we're gonna have removals. Okay?
Yeah.
Then we go to any new business, and new business is only to be proposed, what you want referred to committee. We're not doing votes. It makes no sense to do that. And I would ask for the officers to understand as well. We're probably gonna need that where it's like, if something comes up, if it's gonna go long, we're gonna need for board members to stand up and say, listen, this needs to get tabled until the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay? And then we have adjournment.
Alright.
Okay, we're all there?
Okay.
Let's go through timeframes.
So I have a framework that will get us to vote at least around 8 o'clock or 8:30.
Let's start.
Yeah, call to order should be 5 minutes or less.
Call to order, call to order,
5 or
Yeah.
less. Same thing for roll call.
5
Minutes
minutes.
approval should be 2 minutes.
Hold
or-
on, let's go down,
Yeah, yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So the presentations, SLA, for both of the,
Ready to?
Sure.
yeah,
That might take about,
2 minutes each of it, 2 minutes
okay,
max.
so give it 10. Give it 10 total.
I'm sorry?
Now, from call to order to acknowledgements. Call to order, if we begin at 7:05, this part, these 1, 2, 3, up to the 4 stuff. For the past couple of years, that has been ending at about 8:05. So if you want to cut down some time from here, right?
For what, acknowledgements?
Yeah, yes, because when we
Oh, no,
begin at
we-
7:05, when we begin at 7:05, I'm using 7:05, right? When we get the acknowledgements, business session usually begin at 8 o'clock. So instead we were sitting here 10 minutes here, in reality, it's a custom of a half an hour, so
Alright, so
how
10's a
much you
big
want to cut
improvement.
up, 15?
10's a
It
big
should be
improvement.
good. So, and that, remember that includes our acknowledgements, that, or some people who come every month and say the same thing.
Oh, for the acknowledgements?
Yes, that takes a
Well,
lot of work.
well,
Hey, don't they have 1 minute, 2 minutes max?
Let me say this, I
I
don't
can't
think
remember, I have a time in them.
It's,
yeah, we don't usually,
but
We don't
it's,
usually-
but it's written on the,
Yeah.
agenda.
Right,
They
it's
have,
written.
they have 2 minutes if they're the elected representative, and they have 1 minute if they're a rep for the elected official. No
Yes.
one's been ever
was
timing
it 2
that.
minutes, was it 2 minutes for the,
Yep, that's
That's for
what,
the elected, yeah, it's 2 minutes for the elected, it's 1 for the rep. But no one's ever tracked that.
look here, cause we put this like 30 minutes from there down to there, right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
we-
fine.
We want to
Okay,
cut
so,
down.
so let's just put that,
Yes.
okay, so,
Right, so I'm suggesting 5 for the roll call and the call to order. I think 2.
well, hold on, so let's go back to this time,
Oh,
so,
right, okay.
presentations, okay, so,
Okay.
so for the SLAs, they get long, correct?
It's
2 minutes?
only two, it's
Yeah, I
only
would
two,
say,
they don't
I would say
take
make
that
that 10 minutes in total, if we're gonna do them all. So yeah, 2
For all the
minutes,
presentations?
1 to 3 each. You have the SOAs, right? That could probably be 2 to 3 each.
Yeah, okay,
That's the best.
I would say 2.
Alright.
Really, they've done,
Mhm.
2 minutes,
Okay.
2 minutes,
You only
and how long for your
have
right
to
plan?
do that
2 minutes?
Give me,
I don't think I need
give me
to.
1.5, that he can
Alright.
get.
And let me be
Like
very
he's not
clear,
enough.
I'm not taking questions.
Right,
We
okay,
are
good.
not taking questions, because
no
that's where it's gonna
comments.
run off the rails.
Right.
There's no questions, it's just presentation. Alright.
Public
I mean,
Excuse me.
I
Public comment
I have a note on that.
You could cut
I
it back
think
to-
if we time the block of questions, it'll move on quickly. So if we take questions and we have 3 minutes for all questions and answers, like in total, it'll be quick.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so let's look at this. So that could work. So for the presentations, 10 minutes.
Okay,
10 minutes, and that'll include
in total, right?
in total.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh,
That's what I was
10
saying.
minutes in
Yeah.
total. So
Yeah.
2 minutes for each, and then there's at least 4 minutes for questions.
Okay, that's what I was
And
saying.
we're done.
Yeah, that's
At
fine.
the 10, so when we hit that 10-minute mark, it's done.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier. 10 for that,
Yeah.
like entirely.
Okay.
works.
All right, plus 4 minutes for questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So that works. All right, public commentary, 30 minutes, acknowledgements, we already have the time frame for that. Get to the business call, roll call,
It's 5.
I think,
Usually takes 4, so I'm gonna get 1 more. 5, I think is standard.
5 minutes for roll call,
Yeah.
that sounds kind of, all right.
It'll end up filling it.
5 minutes for roll call, approval of minutes, now
I'd say
this is
2
where,
minutes. I'd say 2 minutes per actual approval. So maybe 4 since we're moving 2.
now the only reason why I worry about that is because special meeting, that ended up
Okay.
being,
Mhm.
there were a lot of people who wanted to make some corrections on this one, so unless people come ready with corrections, this is gonna be a problem.
So you should give out some extra time
But,
batting.
but it's not the
Can you
meeting,
table
there
it
wasn't
again?
really correct, they had
Say
nothing
again?
correct.
Okay.
All right, well, listen,
I give that like 10. Up to 15.
15 minutes? No, that's gonna be good.
Okay.
We have a busy agenda, so it's like, if it's not gonna get done within 5 minutes, it's like not gonna get done.
So I think it's 10. A little extra.
So again? 5 minutes?
Okay.
5 minutes, 5 minutes for the approval of the minutes, because one of them's gonna take that one, and the other, one of them's gonna take 30 seconds.
Alright, yeah, right. Okay.
And then the other one, if you have more than 4 minutes worth of stuff to do with this one, it's like, then we're not ready for the
Okay,
question.
that's fair.
Right, you got
Come in
5
your
minutes and
reports.
then we out of here.
All right, committee
I'd
reports,
say 10 to 15 minutes max.
for committee reports?
Yeah. If you have a lot. I don't know how
5
many
minutes,
days.
not even,
Alright,
The reports are written, yeah, the reports are already written.
Written and read.
I still suggest 10, but okay.
All right,
That was fine.
DM report,
They usually take 6 to 7, so I'd say give it 9 written down.
I must say that they,
we don't have to do it.
If you want to do 5, that's fine.
DM,
no, I find that nowadays.
His report is- yeah,
volunteer
his report is
doesn't be good
printed.
And don't
Okay.
have much
Yeah, and
confusion
let's
like
do this.
before.
Here's the thing,
Yes.
the reports are printed, I'm not going to speak on it, I will answer questions. So we
Right.
have 3 minutes for questions, and that's for, I think for all 3 of them.
I think that's pretty tight.
3 minutes for questions?
I'd say if I like give them,
I
I'm
think
gonna give them a
5.
brief summary. I say 5. Give them a brief summary,
Fair enough,
and they'll take questions.
fair enough. Okay, 5 minutes for summary and questions.
This is gonna be quick. This is a very tight time frame.
5
You can set
minutes,
it here.
same for the treasurer's report,
You might
5
be good at,
minutes.
you might be good at
Maybe
time
we
in
get
your
some
world,
time
but.
And same for 5 minutes. Dante,
The chair's report?
yeah,
5?
5,
Okay.
5 minutes each. Question, how, can you work with 5 minutes for DM report plus questions?
Sure.
He covered
Much
it
better
here,
just
so
sending
it's-
it in and then people asking
There
questions.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
5 minutes more than
he
enough. That's
covered
fine.
it
I mean, not
already.
reporting
Voting
anything.
session, now this is gonna be the fun part.
Okay.
Why would that be
What,
different?
how much time will we have right now?
I haven't checked that. We could do, it's 15.
5
this is
minutes,
10.
15.
Yeah. So it's 15, it's 45. Especially when I got extra 10, so 1 hour or 10. 20.
You gotta be up, you gotta
This
be
is
up by
8:30.
9:30.
This is 8:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta be up by nine,
That's
so
an hour
work
and a
for
half.
9:15.
No, that's long.
Out.
So you're saying
I
15
take the
minutes?
extra 15 minutes and work for 9:15 out. And then you leave time for the answers. If you work for 9:30 and put it up to there, you're gonna be going over time.
So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. If we get 5 minutes for each item. Is that
And this is
sufficient?
9 o'clock. The meeting ends at 9 o'clock, basically.
So we get 5 minutes for each item?
Yeah.
Alright,
That's quick, but
Right, 9:15.
so 5 minutes per item.
Yeah.
And if you wanna move it, you have to vote to extend it.
okay,
5 minutes per item.
great.
Now, if I can only take one, somebody will come say, 'cause they got that
There
one,
you go.
they can do
Yeah,
it.
they get some extra time.
Yeah.
The whole thing is
We
time
get some extra
saving.
time, yeah.
It's fast, and what leaves more time could just borrow from the old.
Yeah.
That works.
5 minutes per item, okay, fine.
Alright, well, I think this is the, we could probably also like, put 30 next to it so that we know it's shared. Or it could be shared.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
We can do that.
One session?
Yeah, should be half an hour. Right, we could end around like 9, 9:10, which is
Right,
great.
that's
You
what
know-
I'm saying,
you know
I
what's
work
why I
it
like 5 minutes
out.
per item is
9:15
because it
already,
puts-
that's my job, to pay me to do this.
But you know, the reason why I like 5
I
minutes per
hope
item
you're
is
right,
because,
this is taking that
Yes.
amount of time.
let's
You
stay
know,
5 minutes per
I don't know
item.
what's gonna happen then.
Okay.
Because it sets a standard, so it's like, when it comes to these questions, we're only doing 5 minutes on any of them.
Okay. Well, I mean, I said you can take both, like 30 minutes and 5 per item. So that it will break down.
Oh, some of them will be faster, some will be slower.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, once you start on
And
time.
then new business manager. We need to put time on new business?
I don't think so. I mean, you can't, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Fair enough. Alright, so, okay, so we've got some time frames. We've got the agenda items.
Right.
Alright, are there any questions? Are we missing anything?
No,
I don't know, I mean,
I
Okay,
think we could.
hearing none. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as stated.
So moved.
second.
Moved by the Watson Lord, seconded by Felice Robertson. Was that you, Felice, or was that?
Yes.
Yes, release.
Alright, moved and seconded. Okay, unless there's any unreadiness, is there any objection to adopting this by common consent?
That's it.
No.
Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted by common consent of the executive committee. Alright, hearing nothing else, let me see, I'm sorry.
Nothing else.
Okay, is there any other business for the executive committee this time?
No, at this time.
Hearing none. We have completed our agenda, we stand adjourned. I wanna thank everyone for coming this evening, looking forward to
What's
seeing
the
everyone.
status with Nicholas?
What time
Is
is
he
it?
okay?
Yeah, I mean, he had family business, he was gonna be working a couple of months because his grandson, hold on one second.